baby. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Nicholas Stubblefield.
Hey everybody, hello, I'm Nicholas. Sorry, I'm getting a little thrown off here. I just feel oddly drawn to you, sir. Yeah, you and the orange. Everyone look at this guy. There's just something about you that's fulfilling needs I didn't know that I had. I apologize, that's inappropriate. You don't need to hear this from me. I'll get back to my set, I apologize, sir. So I have a complicated relationship with my father. Take me home. Oh boy, what a time, what a time. You know what? My father and I never saw eye to eye on a lot of things, and I think it's, we don't really share the same interests, and I think that got in the way, right? Like my dad, he's a real sporty guy. He's a real sporty guy, and I, surprised, not. And I remember the moment where my dad, he would often say, like, Nicholas, I don't know if you will ever become a man. And I remember the exact moment where I realized he was right. It was middle school. I was walking down the hall, and a few friends of mine, they stopped me like, hey, Nicholas, you going to the big game this week? And then I said, and see if you can catch it, no, football's gross. And then I waved as puberty played a skip me uno. Guys, it's tough. But it's not that I hated sports. No, it's not that I hated sports. No, in fact, it's that I hadn't found the right sport. For instance, when I was 17 years old, a junior in high school, a girl I knew got me hooked on tennis. I know, plot twist, I like women. But it's tough, I wanted to sign on for tennis lessons, but my high school didn't allow for walk-ons, so my mom had to sign me up for city lessons. And immediately you have a lot of unknowns, right? Like, what's the caliber of these kids? And I hadn't worked out in 17 years, and I was understandably nervous. And then I showed up, and everyone was 11. And I freaking crushed, just wall to wall evisceration. Those kids had no idea what hit them. I was a real John Wayne Gacy on the courts. Guys, that's the perfect analogy. That's the perfect analogy, because John Wayne Gacy baited and murdered 33 little boys. Much like I did with my backhand. What a clown. Guys, those kids are dead. And the comics are really resonating with that joke right now, but we'll find what you guys like. Yes, we will. I love my dad, I really do, I love my dad, but I don't want to be like him, even though he's dated way more 24-year-olds than I have, right? And it's tough not wanting to be like your father and not being anything like your father, because I think evolutionarily, right, I think what parents want is to see a part of themselves live on in the next generation, right? See a part of themselves live on in their offspring, see their legacy continue. But I feel bad because I'm nothing like my father, and that's hard, and I love him, and I want a little bit of him to live on once he's gone through me. So I've been practicing responding to social situations like he does. And you guys are a pretty sassy crowd, pretty game to participate. Would you guys help me out with a little exercise here? I will take your silence as affirmation, yes. So this is very simple. Guys, first off, let's warm up. Make some noise if anyone here has allergies. Does anyone have allergies? Make some noise. Pussies. And scene. Guys, I feel like him already. Thank you very much. But it is tough. It is tough. You know what? How about we inject a little bit more life? You guys like crowd work? Is this a crowd work kind of crowd? The craft is dying, but daddy's got to get his likes, right? So hey, sir, what do you do for work?
I'm a mathematician.
Whoa, he's a mathematician, guys. Make some noise for him. Go on, Larry, clap. Come on, he's a mathematician. That's exciting. Hey, I've got a math question for you, you mathematician whiz you. Do you calculate that there is an inverse relationship between our respective self-worth such that if I diminish what you do, and by extension who you are, I can increase my self-worth and therefore get laughs?
Yes.
Nerd! Guys, what a little bitch! This guy's not getting laid. You just can't write this stuff. I love crowd work. Spontaneous. All right, that was a little harsh. I apologize. That was a little harsh. Let's roll it back. Hey, sir, are you married?
Yes.
Oh, exciting. And what does your wife think about this?
You're gay.
Oh, no, that's the wrong card. No. Sorry. What's this? What does your wife think about this?
It's actually my husband.
Ah, you whore gay! What a twist, guys! Hey, check out my viral clip later tonight. Comedian destroys gay nerd. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge. I am killing in that corner right now. I am doing very well. A little bit more about me. As a kid, I struggled with anorexia. I know what you're thinking. A boy with an eating disorder? Liberal. But it's tough. It's tough struggling with an eating disorder because people will often accuse you of, oh, you're just looking for attention. And what a terrible way to demean our experiences, right? Looking for attention? We're starving for it. I lost 50 pounds for that joke, so really put my all in it. But it's tough. It's tough. And even treatment options for anorexia have evolved over time. For instance, there used to be a really good clinical hotline that you could call. People would give you clinical advice on how to manage your eating disorder. Recently, however, the government has fired all of the staff, replaced them with AI. And people are like, well, doesn't that make things more efficient? But really, the efficacy of these AI models depends on the data that you're providing it. And in this case, they weren't feeding this clinical AI model clinical information. So what it ended up doing was giving people weight loss advice. Not a good look. So someone would call in and say, hey, I'm struggling with body dysmorphia, and I'm afraid about what I might do. And it would respond with, well, actually, you'd look a lot thinner if you were driving a Tesla. Cooperating with ICE is a great way to burn those pesky extra calories, guys. But it's hard. In my particular instance, didn't have that fancy technology, so my parents made the decision to check me into a psych ward. These are the relatable jokes you came for. That's right. These psych wards, they be shopping. And that always kills with those ones. But for instance, if you don't know, psych wards are very group therapy based, which means they don't work. And in my particular instance, my parents checked me into the Idaho Falls, Idaho Behavioral Health Center, the Idaho Falls, Idaho BHC. And if you've never been to that BHC, don't worry. You've been to one BHC, you've been to all BHCs, right? There's no one from psych ward corporate going, let's give it a theme! No. But if they did, medieval. But what happens, on my first day, they checked me into a group, and for a little bit of context, they put me in a group of 3 other kids, all of us about 11 and 12. And for our first activity, they had us go around the room and say our name and why we got checked in. Cool little icebreaker, right? So we start with the first kid. He's like, hi, I'm Jeremy, and I tried to kill my mom with a sledgehammer. Hi, Jeremy. Then there was Sarah, who tried to drive her family off of a cliff. Then there was Ethan, who stabbed his dad. And then it got to me, and I'm like, I'm Nicholas, and I don't like food. And I looked like a real idiot in front of all my cool new friends. I don't fit in at school, and I don't fit in here, the psych ward, damn it. But I do fit in skinny jeans, so what a win, guys, what a win. But what happens? What happens when you're the odd one out? Inevitably, you get bullied, and these kids, ruthless, relentless, they would not give up. Probably because they were all attempted murderers. And so the bullying got bad enough that I knew I had two options, folks. Either A, fight back hard enough, nasty enough that they would have to leave me alone, or B, get better so that my parents would check me out. And me, being an overachiever, decided to do both. So I ate them. My psychiatrist was thrilled. He's like, you're cured. Yes, I am. And then I threw them up because bulimics get way more attention. You can eat too? Damn it. I hate bulimics. They're like the bisexuals of eating disorders. Get it? Because they're not real. That's not a real thing. I hate bulimics. But guys, I've been Nicholas Stubblefield. Thank you for listening to my tales. I'll give it back to your host, Misha.